Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I am your host, DPalm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. You can follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. If you're going to talk about the show, do us a huge favor. Use the hashtag UDPod so we can find you, and thank you for the shout-outs. You can also send suggestions, story ideas that way as well. I know things that I try to cover as much as I can on the pod, but there's stories I don't see, stories that I don't really know about, but I like it when the listeners bring it to my attention. I try to work it into the show. We're brought to you, of course, by the good folks at NTR Network. It's the one place where you can get everything you need in life, including comic book talk, video games, movies, politics, relationship advice. I was on our premium show, Hell No Cupid, ahead of my pending nuptials. We're recording this 13 days out of my wedding. And I'm not just talking fast because I'm nervous, I promise. Make sure you're leaving 5-star reviews. If you leave a 5-star review in the iTunes, we will read it on the air. Anything you write, I will read, despite how mean it's been against the Falcons. And after tonight's game, could be much, much meaner. Anyway, I'll read those reviews in the air. Subscribe in the iTunes store. That way you can get all the extra things we drop. I know we dropped those quick snaps. Haven't had one last week just because you know what, your boy gets tired sometimes. But it's the best place you can catch all the extra things that we're going to be dropping on the feed. Especially like if you like our Super Tuesday content, make sure you subscribe to that feed as well. We drop individual episodes. I know our mailbags will be not released on the main feed. Make sure you subscribe to the individual feeds of the shows that you love to make sure you're getting the full experience. Fuller experience will get you is a little premium network, $8 a month. Also, our Patreon page is up, and the shop is back. Blame Chris shirts are going to be available very soon. So will Blame DPalm, but I can't imagine why anyone would want to wear one of those. I believe that's all I have in the way of intros. Let's get right to it. We've got our guest today. Y'all know him from the Three Fifs Podcast. Y'all know him from ruining this podcast occasionally. Y'all know him from his blanket Florida support. Our homie Justin, LJ90 on Twitter. What's up, man?
What's going on, man? I'm here, bringing some of that good old Florida weather to the pod. You know, ahead of we can call it the world's largest cocktail party, right? Like we can still call it that. CBS just can't call it that.
I don't even call it anything. I just circle the date on my calendar and I just don't call it anything. It's like, yeah, it's a day of sadness. It's one of those days you're not proud of when you drink a lot alone. Like, it's not something you brag about. It's just something that happens.
You know, that is what the Saturday after Thanksgiving has become for me. You know, that used to be a day that I looked forward to. You know, get some Thanksgiving leftovers and I get to laugh at Tallahassee. But it hasn't been that way for the last couple of years. I feel like, you know, I could relate to your sadness.
See, and I feel like you're minimizing my pain. Because generally, and let's just say this generally, not all the time, there have been some blips, but generally, since 1980, I would say Florida State as a whole has been a healthier program than Florida. So I think the years that you guys lost, like it was kind of like, oh, you know, the Florida-Georgia game is a blight upon humanity and a curse. Like Florida State is a football game.
Hold on, Florida Georgia. That's not a primetime game, is it? Like it's at noon. It's at 3:30.
No, God no. Those people would tear apart Jacksonville before. If you made them wait to 7 p.m., they'd have to bring in outside drunk tanks.
No. So I remember this. DJ Shockley's last year, they wanted to make that a primetime game. I remember this.
Yeah. Every time it comes up, people are like, it gets as far as someone who's literally been there once. Like, it gets past a bunch of junior executives and ad folks. We could definitely make the money, and it gets to one person who's attended one of these games. Like, oh, absolutely not. What? We need to get people in the stadium as quickly as possible.
Get them in, get them out.
Because we technically can't serve. Because they may bring their own, but they're gonna run out inside the stadium. It's literally just we're gonna dry them out. That's the entire point of the football game.
You get them in, you get them out. That's the goal.
That's the goal. And because after that bell rings, you know what's there no longer? Our legal responsibility. And that's just from a pure, just naked, making money and lowering your liability standpoint. That's all it is.
The more you peel back the onion on collegiate sports, the more you're just like, holy shit, this is horrible.
Like, have you ever been to Georgia, Florida?
I've not been to Georgia, Florida.
Okay, so I've never gone, and I've had opportunities. I've never gone, and I am 32. And someone said, "Hey, next year after, not this, obviously not this year, but next year, do you want to go Georgia, Florida?" I said, "If I've lived 32 years not going, I can't start going now." What are you talking about?
It's like a hard drug. It's like
something you just aged out of. I missed it. That's fine, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's not like homecoming. You can always come back to homecoming. Florida, Georgia, it's
No. I can't watch this game in public. I literally watch this game every year by myself to the point where Susan's like, "Should I go?" I'm like, "If you want, you can leave. I'm not gonna ask you to stay, but I'm not gonna tell you to leave."
Right.
Do what you feel. Like if you got errands to run, that's fine. I'm gonna be here, drinking unhealthy amounts and eating unhealthy food, and being stressed for the next 5 hours because that game always takes forever.
It's never like even when you're like, okay, theoretically both teams are ball control this year.
Yeah. When a lot of run attack. The clock shouldn't really stop. Nope.
They'll find a way.
Hey, life finds a way. Jurassic Park taught me that.
Oh, good reference. Hey,
Thank you. But yeah, you're not just here to talk about the dangers of Georgia, Florida. Let's talk about something that's happened on your end of the world. Three Fifs Pod, y'all, 100 episodes.
I know, right? Like Eric and I looked up,
and not like a Marvel renumbered 100 episodes. We rolled in all the extra fifths and other. No, you guys get to the pure, clean 100 episodes.
So okay, kind of yes. So the 3/5 incarnation of what me and Eric are doing, yes, that's 100. We had something back in like 2008, 2009 when we didn't even know what podcasting was. Like it was just a bunch of us on a Facebook group. And we were like, I think we could do something like online radio where people can listen and download, right? They don't have to listen live. They can just show up and download the episode. We can do this weekly. We did like 5 episodes of that. Then we kept trying to retinker and retool it. And then eventually 3/5 was born. And it's 100 episodes of that.
Wow.
But somewhere on Eric's hard drive, and he showed this to me, all of our old stuff, like the very first recording we've ever done. And holy shit, is it bad.
Oh, no.
It's so bad.
Oh, man. Of course it is.
I think we put it on the main feed. If we haven't, I know we've talked about putting it on the main feed.
It's been a conversation.
Yeah, it's definitely been a conversation. Like I think the next time all of us are off, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to throw it up on the main feed. Like, here's the first time Eric and I ever recorded anything. Enjoy the suck.
It's wild though.
But no, man,
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, it's been like a wild ride just getting to 100, like honing it, refining it, finding out like what it is we want to do, how we want to stand out, because like a lot of us have podcasts, but you're not getting the same thing with each of us, right? Like Insanity Check is different from Black Guy Who Tips, it's different from Where's My 40 Acres, it's different from 3/5. Like we're all different, we're all unique, and it's just been like finding new ways to be like, okay, so how can we expand and still maintain our individuality? How do we expand and still maintain like our uniqueness and weirdness? And I think like that's what I want to do more of going forward. I want to do the weird shit, right? Like I want to do the like 30 for 30s in podcast form, right? I want to do like documentaries. I want to do audio dramas. I want to do weird shit. So I'm happy about doing more weird shit.
It's exciting, man, because like you're right. Like it's been so much fun. And you and I did like the Civil War, like the debate.
And that was a lot of fun.
Like things like that, you're right. You kind of test the form a little bit. You want to see like what can we really do with this.
Yeah, I think once we did the Civil War thing, we got a lot of great feedback from that. We're like, okay, we can do a lot more fiction shit. We can do a lot more, not necessarily current events. We can be weird. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that.
That's awesome, man. Well, congratulations. That's a milestone, and I don't know what episode that is. I lose track. I honestly lost track of what episode this is. I always find out like when I'm doing my labeling afterwards. But yeah, it's been great to watch you guys grow and be what you are, man. And one of the reasons why I'm behind the mic is because I like you guys and I appreciate it, man. So
Man, the support from you, and then just us listening to you and being fans of everything you guys are doing, man. It's I love us, man. Like, just real talk, I love us.
It's a good time, man. It's a really good time to be part of the team. Let's talk about some other stuff before we get into the week of sports, because we've turned into a segment here. We stole it from Amani Jones. We're calling it War Games here, and it's the time you found out that football or whatever sport is your choice wasn't for you. I'll generally tell a somewhat embarrassing story. I think I'll tell a different story this week because I told Felder I'd tell this story. Anyway, we'll talk about it after you hear your story. Justin, we talked earlier. You did play football coming up a little bit, but you did have a moment where it was decided for you, or you decided, or maybe the sport said quite sternly that this is not for you. Can you tell us about that moment?
So, okay. I did 2 years of football. So I want to say 7th and 8th grade, or maybe 8th and 9th grade. Like, we just got back from Korea. They didn't have football over there. So I'm like, yes, I'm going to play football. 12-year-old Justin was a small gangly thing. The growth spurt in puberty had not hit yet, so I was very tiny and gangly and not me. So that first year was rough. But, I still had a lot of fun. That what they do with all the kids that can't play, they just stick them on the line because it's divvied out by weight class. So, like, all the 100-pound kids were in the same league.
Right.
So, okay, you can't do a skill position, put them on the line. You can push somebody.
Which is what Pop Warner line is, yeah.
Yeah, no, that is what Pop Warner, just push. If you can push, you're fine. Maybe we'll get creative and we can do a pull, but we only do that on the special play. Now, occasionally they'll do like one guy, if they see one guy's like, okay, maybe you could actually be a lineman when you get to high school. Let's start working on
this isn't the end of your career.
So the next year, growth spurt hits, and Justin is a 6'2", 13-year-old. So immediately they're like, oh, you're tall as shit, and you're kind of fast. Receiver. You're going to play receiver. Oh, wait, no, I just had my growth spurt. I have the coordination of a duck.
Yeah, so what's that like to hit? Because I was always I guess I kind of filled out, but I was always a taller kid. What's it like to shoot up overnight?
I remember one summer I slept for like a week straight. Like, I woke up to eat and then just went back to sleep. And then the next thing I know, I'm taller than my uncle. I'm like, wait, how did this happen? What is happening here? So that's like an adjustment, getting used to, like, it's basically a brand new body. Anyways, they put me at receiver. I can't catch anything, but I still have like the basic stuff. So like, okay, we'll put you at tight end. And occasionally maybe we can have you like go out for easy passes where you can just focus on catching. So they drew up this one play. The tight end screen, whatever, tight end goes behind the line, goes forward. For 13-year-olds, it's brilliant because they're like, I didn't know you could do that.
Yo, that's the best part of Pop. I like youth football. I was like, are you out scheming them? No, I'm just showing them plays they've never considered.
Yes. So they did the screen. The whole team just came through, and the tight end just slipped behind the line. I caught the ball. And I'm just running behind the line, just doing my little jogs. That's what they said. They said, stay behind the line. They'll clear it out for you. The center looks back at me and says, dude, there's like no one ahead of us. You want to just go to the end zone? And I was like, yes, let's do this. They break off. I'm running. I'm on the ground. And I'm looking up. I don't know what's happened. Like, I don't know how we got from me looking at the end zone to me looking at the sky. What happened? Oh, no, I didn't get hit. No one came from behind to hawk me. I tripped on my cleat. And I rolled, and Charlie Brown style landed like right in front of the end zone. And I'm just staring at the sky like, you know what? It's not for me, man.
Wait. That's not the story I was expecting.
Oh, no, like I didn't get blasted or anything. Although, so there's a funnier story that I'll have to tell off air about players in Miami-Dade County that we may or may not know playing touch football that may or may not have gotten too serious, and someone may or may not have gone to the trunk of the car.
Oh, yes, that's an off-air story.
That's an off-air story.
That's an off-air story. But wait, so your own clumsiness was like, nah, that was your first clue. Like, nope, I've seen enough.
Yes, that was it. But then right after that, I started playing basketball. I was like, oh, okay, I'm fairly decent at this, so I didn't feel too.
Okay, there you go.
No, my own clumsiness let me know, like, no, this isn't for you.
This running in a straight line stuff's not so much, but you can cut, you can move laterally.
See, there you go. It was the running of the. That's all it was. Really just a straight sprint to the end zone. I was there.
Ooh, sounds tough. Let's go play some lateral shit.
Exactly. This I can do.
This I understand. I like that. That's a good story. That's the safest one of these stories I've heard.
It is. It is.
That's just it's just not for me. That's good. All right, well, let's talk about the week in sports. And man, it's a healthy one. And when people say, why do we call like summer the dead period? Like, you just say that because you hate baseball. That is part of it. But also it's because literally nothing else is happening. There's nothing else like storyline wise. Yeah, you can talk about NBA moves, and yes, the NBA was messy as hell this offseason. But that only takes you so far. But now we've got all 5 major sports, including the challenge, back in our lives at the same time. It's been a healthy week in sports, and I'm really excited to get to it. Let's start with the NFL Summit. There was a summit of selecting players and coaches and owners in New York during the league's off day this week. And if you read the league-affiliated sources, you came out thinking that the owners gained a new and different and special appreciation for what the players were protesting and what they were standing up for. Jed York went as far as to say racial inequalities and say these things to reporters afterwards. He used the language of the players. Like, and maybe you're saying, oh yeah, he can do that. He's Jed York. His team lives in San Francisco. It's not exactly North Texas or Dallas. Yeah, you're very right about that. But it's still to see someone in power put those terms and words that's the conversation we've all been having. I think that meant something. At the same time, you have the players coming out and saying that it felt largely like a waste of an off day. Because what they wanted to see, I think, was progress. That they wanted to see was steps and commitments made. And what the owners were really there was to literally force feed some of the owners the things they've been turning a blind eye to.
And, that's fair, right? Like, saying these things and saying the right things can only go so far. I really think what the players wanted was, so how are you going to put action into this? What bills are you guys going to sponsor? Because we know you've got connections to politicians. Arthur Blank rolled down to the governor of Georgia to prevent him from signing that same law that passed in North Carolina. So we know you guys have pull in that arena.
Shout out to Arthur Blank.
I still think that's the funniest story of last year. Arthur Blank showing up to the governor of Georgia and saying, okay, so here's what you're not going to do.
Real quick, that's not going to work.
And here's why. You see that the Disney Studios over there? You see Coca-Cola? Gone. Turner Broadcasting? Gone. You want to be responsible for all of this? Okay, I didn't think so. But that's sort of the kind of, I think that's what the players wanted. They wanted, at a minimum, a plan of saying, how are you actually going to combat these things and not just say them?
Right.
Because we've been saying it. What are you going to do with your power?
I think you're right. I think it was a situation of different groups having different expectations of the meeting.
Right.
And while I do agree that I'm on the player's side of I wanted more response, I think Jed York, having given that speech, I think the owners taking a more vocal stance, even if it's not all, of course it's not all of them. But I think the owners taking a vocal stance in support of their players in the eyes of, while the people are saying the fans are losing touch with the sport, meanwhile I'm a fan and this shit speaks to me. But we don't get to count me as a fan.
I mean, that's the other layer of it, right? Like, who are the fans? Right? Like, who are the real fans? Who are the people that are so disconnected from this, and why are we discounting the voices that do connect to it? Right? Fans are not a monolith unless you're only focusing on the fans you identify with. And if that's the case, you got to ask yourself, why are you only focusing on the fans that you identify with? What is it about that makes you, what is it about the other fans that makes you just want to exclude them from this narrative?
Right. Why don't they get to count?
And when you answer that question, you might learn something about yourself.
Of course, the name on everyone's lips as to who wasn't at the summit was Colin Kaepernick. There were conflicting reports. The players, I think, got tricked early into carrying some water for the owners, saying that we reached out to Colin, but he didn't come. Colin was never formally invited. I guess they tried to use word of mouth to get to him, but it's like trying to go to a party. It's like, yo, I went on a guest. I was like, yeah, but you're my friend. We're good. Come on, trust me. It's good. I don't feel comfortable going. That's how it felt like with me and Colin. Also coming out this week, I don't know if it was timed to coincide with the summit, but it is what it is. News of a lawsuit from Colin Kaepernick against the NFL filing collusion charges. Now, this is pretty damning for a lot of reasons. One of them being that legally, once you have evidence of collusion in your possession, you have 90 days to file such a suit. And secondly, the burden of proof is pretty damn high. So, and you're not going to get subpoena power out of this. You're not going to get to go. I think what they're hoping for is that it gets to a hearing stage where they can ask for subpoena, where they can subpoena some documents and ask for records. And we all know no one really wants to go to discovery ever. So then maybe they're hoping the NFL will settle. Someone said to me, do you think Colin would settle for enough money? And I looked at them like they were crazy, because this is the earth, and there's always enough money. That's just how the world works. But I don't think that that's the goal here, because, like I said, 90 days is the burden. You have to file by. The burden's very high. He's got a lawyer involved who he didn't go through the NFLPA for, but the NFLPA is backing their actions, which makes me wonder, what do they have? Because all they have to do is prove that two teams coincided and said, we can't hire him because of this. And I think that there's enough diversity of thought in a lot of these front offices that a leak of such nature is not impossible.
I mean,
what was your take on this one?
I don't think it's that hard to even prove without the leak, right? Like, you can.
It's super hard to prove.
Okay.
Because you've got to say, not just because him not having a job isn't evidence enough, because if individually teams decide, hey, I can't hire him because of his politics, that's okay.
It's the proving that, okay, so thanks for clarifying.
Proving that they were coordinated in doing so.
I mean, I'm sure glad that someone...
And while NFL teams have been dumb and written a lot of dumb shit down...
Yeah, I mean...
something that was a phone call and not an email. Like, I don't know, the question for me becomes, what's the end game? And I've got two answers, and both of them are actually a lot of fun. The first one is, end game is, and first, for the record, we've all got to realize that the fight isn't for Colin Kaepernick to be employed. That's never going to happen again. He will never play NFL football again. It's important that we all recognize that. Now, you ask yourself, then what's the goal? Firstly, I think the goal is what I first said, little money. A large enough settlement that will fund this kind of the work that Colin wants to do going forward. Because I think we've made it very clear in the time that he hasn't had a job, where he's paid his union dues and given millions of dollars in charity and giving to others. It's not about the bottom line for him. But I think if you can make the NFL make a large financial commitment to the work of social justice, I don't care how the funds get there. I just want the funds. If they do it out of the goodness of their heart, God bless them, but that's not going to happen. I'm not going to hold my breath. If the NFL wants to avoid discovery and they want to settle for a large enough number, let's do that. But the second outcome, Justin, is actually a little more salacious. Because 2 is good. 2 is collusion. Colin will make more money than we've ever heard. 3 is better. The magic number is 14. You know what happens at 14, Justin?
Okay, enlighten me. What happens at 14?
The entire CBA becomes invalidated.
Oh! That explains why the NFLPA has extra incentive to...
That's why they can't be involved, but they can back nominally. Because if you're involved,
exactly.
you're now the organization that tried to break the NFL. But if you're behind it nominally, man, oh man, you can end resources and support to someone who may or may not be trying to end the NFL.
And if that CBA breaks...
It's square one, ground zero for brand new negotiations. There is no existing structure.
Maybe the NFLPA could actually, if the CBA breaks, maybe they could actually
hence
more
the
to
support,
protect.
but not actually taking the lead.
Well, no, I'm saying not for the collusion charge. But once the new negotiations start, maybe the new CBA won't be so what's the word I'm looking for? Shitty for the players.
That's the word. That's the exact word you're looking for. And you're right. And that's the hope. I think that's the goal. But I tell you what, man, that is ambitious as hell.
I mean, I'm sure glad there isn't, like video of, a high-ranking public official saying out loud that the owners talked to him and said that they were doing this to keep calling out and all those sons of bitches that kneel for the anthem. I'm sure glad there's not video or something like that out there. I'm sure the owners are too.
All I'm saying is these are lawyers who they don't get out of bed without something to do. They
Right.
don't come to the office on a lark. They don't bluff as business. There's something there.
Oh, yeah.
And if you start to see more than 3 or 4 names drop, really pay attention.
I'm now way more invested in this than I have any right to be.
It's pretty nuts, man. It's the implications are staggering.
I mean, as a union guy, I really want to see where this goes.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The NFL, Kaepernick didn't have a job. There's clearly a quarterback drought, but not just a quarterback drought this year, more like a star drought. Because at this point in the in the season, we're looking at what? This is week 7, week 8?
Yep.
We're week 7. If you have a national commercial, you're probably not on the field anymore. Aaron Rodgers, Dunsky, J.J. Watt. Maybe you should reconsider about being a football player because your body's going to be betraying you. Luke Kuechly, stop it. Take his helmet away. Put him in a booth.
See, I'm afraid of even doing that because then we'll see just the damage accumulates. So that worries
me very uneasy to watch some of these guys continue to play football. Odell Beckham, if you have a national ad right now, you're probably in the walking wounded. And I think that's something that's become a larger problem in the NFL. One, because they're not capitalizing on stars early enough from a marketing perspective. Why aren't these running backs who are tearing up this league out here being the lead faces of the league?
Well, the league made a decision to focus more on passing and sort of get away from the run game because they made a conscious decision to market quarterbacks and receivers because that's exciting. Running the ball isn't exciting, but touchdown passes and mossing is exciting.
In their defense, it is exciting. I'm not going to argue with that being true. I will say that it feels like it's come back to bite them because once these guys who throw the ball get hurt, who are we talking about?
Right. Like there is no reason why Dalvin Cook is not a star.
None.
Right, and I don't mean like star and say, oh, you're saying Dalvin Cook's not good? No, Dalvin Cook is an exceptional talent. He should be a star. You should be able to see. If I showed you a picture of Dalvin Cook, you would have no idea who it is.
Yo, someone go pick Kareem Hunt out of a group of dudes.
Right, like Dalvin Cook should maybe not the same level as Marshawn, but he should be as recognizable as Marshawn.
Yo, like Kareem Hunt's a rookie. Like what in the world? Like this should be a story.
Yes, it should.
He's running the offense that is tearing up the league. And if things made sense, and if Kansas City would still not just somehow not lost their last 2 damn games, I would be able to be even louder about it. But it just feels weird. This guy's a 3rd round pick who's got 717 yards coming out of week 7. That's amazing.
No idea who this dude is. None.
You couldn't pick him out of a lineup. It's ridiculous. They haven't done a good job of cultivating new stars. And so when these injury bugs hit, we're all left wondering, holy shit, who are we watching? 1. And 2, wait a second. Are any of these teams any good? Because this is the end result of that parity everyone thinks they want in NFL football. The end result of it is the Chiefs going 5-0 early, then losing to the Steelers, who are having a literal on-the-field inter-team meltdown, and then turning around, going in the next week to a team that's lost 4 in a row, and it's bringing their quarterback back off of a literal broken back and losing to them at home, on the road in the Raiders. Like, I don't know if any of these teams are good. I think the Chiefs are good, but those two last losses, I can't say definitively the Chiefs are good. What has happened to the NFL? There is no stars. Like, why isn't Devonta Freeman the face of the Falcons and Matt Ryan, who had a wonderful year last year and earned his MVP trophy and probably should have won the Super Bowl if Kyle Shanahan wasn't who he is as a human? But in the end of the day, which is a cliche I hate using, but I'm going to stick by it for this little rant, Matt Ryan's a guy that throws a lot of picks. Last year he threw fewer picks, so we loved him. But Matt Ryan's a guy that throws a ton of picks. It's just who he is. He takes dumb sacks sometimes because he triple passes the ball and he throws picks, but he also throws a beautiful deep ball and will run a 2-minute drill better than anyone else I've ever seen in my entire life.
You know what's really interesting to me? This current crop of quarterbacks, you can tell which of the older generation of quarterbacks they looked up to, right? Like Matt Ryan, you can tell Matt Ryan is a Favre guy. You can tell just growing up, he likes watching Brett Favre.
He's the Favre Marino tree, and so is Stafford.
Like, you can just tell. Just by watching it, I was like, okay, yeah, I see where...
Trust the arm talent. You can make this throw. And to be fair, it's worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah, more often than not. So quick note. I was talking about Dalvin Cook. This whole time, my brain was actually thinking Devonta Freeman. It's like, which one of those Florida State running backs?
See, that's the thing. Why is the fact that there's a gang of them a story? Why aren't we running packages on Florida State running back you?
No, I think the more interesting story at Florida State is how Jimbo got, in 2 successive years, E.J. Manuel and Christian Ponder taken in like the top 10.
Like, he is the quarterback whisperer. And then, like, you gave him a real good one with Jameis. I was like, oh, no. Of course he won a title.
Oh, man. Like, even the young...
Like going back to the original point, the star power that we've lost so far in the NFL. If LeBron, Steph Curry, Dame Lillard all went down in the first 4 weeks of the NBA season, Adam Silver would change whatever rules had to be changed. They'd play one game a week if they had to.
The rules would be in effect after the All-Star break. Right? Like, so, say what you want about David Stern. The best thing he did, and we were talking about this on the pre-call, the best thing he did was the Jordan rules. He said, okay, Detroit, that was cute. You got your ring. You're not going to break the superstar of this league. Michael Jordan is going to make us all filthy, stinking rich.
You can be mad when you sign your massive contracts because, we protected Jordan. He's going to make us all so very, very rich. Shut up.
And I don't think they even tried to hide the fact. Yes, no, we did try to protect Michael Jordan. Yes. Yeah, that's...
Were those rules in place to protect Michael Jordan? Yes. Why? Because we're not stupid. Next question.
Because we like money. And so I gave the NBA as an organization credit for this. They know how to protect their stars. They also know how to cultivate stars. Man. Right? Like, they don't leave it up to, because it seems like for the NFL, they leave it up to the teams themselves to try to cultivate the stars. And then once they hit a certain level of prominence, then the NFL says, okay, let's promote this guy.
Well, that also speaks to the temporary, how temporary each commodity is as far as a football player versus a basketball player. But that
also very true.
Like an ugly place where we have to really talk about what sports are, and let's not do that yet. Let us talk about the continued bounty of not the dead season as the NBA is all the way back. And how do you know it's back? Because when I wasn't watching a game, my Twitter exploded because Gordon Hayward's foot got put on backwards. I still haven't seen it. I don't know how in 2017 I've avoided it, but so far, so clean.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. And I was watching the game, and I didn't see it. Ugh. I walked up to get something from the kitchen, and then I just hear, oh, my God, Gordon Hayward. And I was like, that sounds terrible. Oh, that sounds really terrible. Yeah, I'm not going to watch what happened.
There's no point in ever watching those. Like, if you're one of those people who loves to share this stuff, like, get a hobby. That's not this.
Right. And
talk to somebody.
I feel bad because this is. I think we have a warped perception of recovery times for these things because we've seen people like Paul George and Adrian Peterson come back from devastating injuries, right? So we think, oh, he'll be fine in a year. Like, no. Rudy Gay is playing basketball right now, and he couldn't walk last year. Like, he legitimately said, I could not walk last year.
It's wild. This is, like, injuries, like, because, like you said, you're right, because of the way we treat our athletes, we don't really consider what that does. The mental part of getting over this. Like, when I see a guy who got hit in the face by a pitch back in a batter's box, I'm like, you are either the bravest man alive or an utter psychopath. I cannot tell.
You just got hit in the face with an object approaching you at a minimum 80 miles an hour.
And you're back. Like, no. No. But Hayward and Jeremy Lin went down with torn patella knee ligament, and like that's. I know that the league has done the thing where they've cut back on the back-to-backs and they spread out the schedule some. Justin, we just need fewer games, right? We need to go to 70. Like we need 70 games. Like maybe the offseason isn't long enough. Like maybe that's part of the problem. We need 70 games.
Well, so I agree we need a shorter season, but I don't think a shorter season would have prevented these two specific injuries, right? Like,
I don't think so either. But I am saying that maybe overtraining or maybe not enough time off, maybe enough dead period, because 82 plus the playoffs, another call it 30 games. Now that one of these players were playing deep in the playoffs last year, but then you look at that and that ends, and then when camp starts, there's not. When the NBA started this week, I said, "Oh, the NBA's back." Susan said, "Wait, what?" I said, "The NBA." She said, "It's back." I said, "Yeah." She says, "Didn't it just end?"
I mean,
you can feel that way.
When you think about it, so playoffs end in mid-June.
Yeah, mid to late now.
Yeah, mid to late June, July, August, September, back in October.
Right? Like and that's if you don't play national teams. Like or run camps. There's really no time off.
And now they're really hyping the preseason. I was watching basketball again, just perusing channels in July.
Nigga, I was watching Vegas
in August.
Yeah, summer league.
So and again, credit
that keeps these guys in the court. I am saying that it makes me ask the question of how can we ensure we do keep more guys in the court?
Right. It's the balance the NBA is trying to strike between having a constant presence so that you don't forget about us, but also making sure that your players are as safe as possible.
It's physically viable.
Yes.
For the workers.
Another good union term.
Workers. I'm gonna keep hammering that one home. I got you on the air, man. I'm glad to have you. I'm glad to be back. Every time you come on, we have fun. Got to talk about people though. How much money did y'all give Lamarcus Aldridge? If y'all don't know, Justin's an avid Spurs fan and defends their actions to almost a fanatical degree. But I do have to ask him here, what's up with giving Lamarcus Aldridge all that money when he keeps vanishing in the playoffs?
I mean, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say?
I'm asking questions.
I'm asking questions too. In terms of just giving Lamarcus the money, I don't hate it. Right? Like, when you look at it, like, but he didn't do anything in the playoffs. I mean, let's be real. Once Kawhi went down against Golden State, that was it. That was a wrap. Like, there was nothing. Lamarcus could have put up 50 and 25, and we still would have lost by 30. There was nothing he could have done. So I don't hold that one against him. He did have a bad year last year, right? He had one of his worst years last year. And Popovich has taken ownership of that. So, that's my fault, because that's what leaders do. So, hey, we'll see how it goes. We got to give the money to somebody. Having Lamarcus Aldridge is better than not having Lamarcus Aldridge. There we go. That's how I talked myself into it. Having Lamarcus Aldridge is better than not having Lamarcus Aldridge.
And I think that's the math that the Spurs must have done, because you saw Pop, who has been visibly frustrated with Lamarcus Aldridge over the last 3 years, come out this week, and I forget the publication. I know I'd share it with you on Twitter, but he said, my thing I had done wrong with Lamarcus, I've tried to make him something he's not. I've tried to make him. He said when Tim Duncan came in, they asked, "How are you going to coach Tim Duncan?" I shrugged and said, "I'm going to let him beat Tim Duncan. I haven't let Lamarcus be Lamarcus, and he's looked better in this offseason, particularly having the heart issue taken care of, and able to train, and looked in better shape." And I'll be honest, Because I did, like you said, because we're kind of, I think, junkies a little bit in this. I did watch some Spurs preseason, and I do think that he's gotten better and looks more comfortable. I do think he looks like he's in better shape and moving better, and I think he looks like a better fit in the offense just in the small sample size that I've seen. That said, is Pop just being a leader here and like, here's what I got to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is I'll take the heat so you guys don't focus on him so much, right? Like, a lesser coach would have just thrown him under the bus completely. But he said, hey, you know what? I'm the coach too. I have a responsibility here. So, and I think that's why players around the league respect Pop. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. He looked good against Minnesota. He looked good late against Chicago. But that's one really bad team and one team that's still figuring out what they are. Like, oh my God, the Bulls are just bad. Like, I was watching, I knew they were going to be bad. I didn't expect them to be inept.
Well, they're also down 2 players now. For those who don't know, look, I don't advocate. I do. I was trying to say we don't celebrate violence on this podcast, but we do. Like, that's just what we do. For those who don't know, Bobby Portis is a player for the Chicago Bulls. He's a player from Little Rock, Arkansas. That should inform everything that I tell you next. At some point this week, Bobby Portis and his teammate Nikola Mirotic got into it at practice. Conflicting accounts of what exactly occurred, but I know how it ended. With Bobby Portis landing a punch to Nikola's face. And if you imagine the space between your upper part of your teeth and your nose, that's what he broke. Nikola's taken to the hospital, obviously had surgery. He's out for an indefinite amount of time. And the Bulls, who decided to handle the matter internally, have decided to suspend Bobby Portis for 8 games. Now, Justin, you and I talked about this number before the show recorded. And I'm going to repeat what I said then. Nikola knows why he got hit. The Bulls know why Bobby hit him. Bobby knows why Bobby hit him. And when I saw Bobby's apology, which I'm describing as totally sincere and winking at my microphone, I resolve that everyone here knows why you got hit. Because in a vacuum, 8 games is a lot. It's 10% of the season. It's 10% of your salary. That's a lot of games. However, in the not-so-vacuum, it's only 8, Justin.
He broke that man's face. And they decided to basically give him 2 weeks off.
No one called the police? Because this is assault, by the way.
This is workplace violence.
This is like a union matter. The Bulls are like 8. Nikola's not like, that's bullshit. No one seems upset.
I just want to know why. Like, I purposely avoided.
This meeting happened. So we're thinking about giving Bobby 10. No, 10. 10. You know Nikola been fucking with him for a year. Well, we think 10's a good message. What message? Don't fuck with Bobby? Like, what are you talking about? Everyone knows why Nikola got hit in the face. Even he knows why he got hit. Well, I know, but 10. No, we can't do 10. I'm not doing Bobby with 10. 8. Fine. 8. Fine. 8's fine. This was like a begrudging 8. Because that meeting happened.
If we have to, okay, 8.
Yo, because you know what someone else said? How about 6? Nah, they'll talk about this for 6. Like, they did this math.
I wish I was in the room when it happened. I just want to know.
And I don't read a whole bunch of, I wouldn't read the stories or the biography of a poorly run basketball team. If they do a season retrospective on these Bulls, who may not win 20 games, I'll read every page. I'll buy the hardback and go to a signing. As long as the story's in there.
I think that's fair. Right?
If he knows why he got hit, I feel like I should know why he got hit. And maybe that's greedy. And maybe that's selfish. And maybe that's the shortcomings that I deal with as a man. Whatever. I want to know. I'm curious. I'm not curious. You know what I am, Justin? I'm nosy.
And I'll be that. I will totally be that.
I'll be nosy. That's fine. This is the kind of messiness that the NBA brings to us that I appreciate. This is why summer's a dead period. Because we back. Justin, we back.
Back in full effect. All right. What is going to be the next team meltdown that we see? Because I think I know what the next meltdown is going to be. Well, not like next chronologically, but the next big one that's going to grab headlines.
Oh, no, nigga. The next one that brings headlines is if they bring back Nikola and no one's been traded. That's the next one.
So we're on the same page.
That's the one I'm thirsty for. Like, yo, trade no one. But wire the whole place for sound, and I want cameras everywhere.
Just like I would when he was at Alabama, I actually would have paid for a channel dedicated to Lane Kiffin's headset and Nick Saban's headset. All right, so I got a funny story. We're actually going to scrap the next topic because that was going to take a while, and this story is way funnier. So, this is good. How do I do this while maintaining some identities hidden? Fuck it. So when I graduated college, I moved back to Atlanta, and you out of college, you feel yourself first big job, you go out way too much. And one of the places I like to go out, and I became friends with the bartenders and all my friends with the owners, and like one of the bartenders is actually one of my grooms in my wedding in a couple weeks. It was also the Georgia Tech football bar, and so I'm a year ahead of the guy Roman Reigns in WWE. I've seen him coming. Yes, way too often in the same bar. I'm like, 21. Anyway, there's a game that happened. And it's kind of like lost in the lore of college football. But there was a large rumor that went on that Reggie Ball played so poorly in the Georgia game that they got into a fight in the locker room afterwards because the linemen were trying to fight the quarterback. I can vouch that story is 1,000% true. And it spilled over into that night in the establishment. When I tell you that it was like O-linemen, the thing is, it wasn't all the O-linemen because some of them they really thought Reggie might have thrown the game. Oh, that's so funny.
I watched Roman Reigns keep the peace between the D-line and the O-line. Because some of the O-linemen had Reggie's back, some didn't. And the whole defense was mad as fuck.
Okay, so in a similar vein, I may have witnessed something similar at FAMU.
like people don't realize when you deal with teams, particularly like lots of different personalities, this shit happens.
Yes.
It happens more on football teams than you think, because think about it this way, there's in a college team 100 guys in that room who do not agree on most things. Be it position groups, be it who's not carrying their weight, be it things outside the locker room. You got 100 different personalities. Dust-ups occur. They usually don't end in broken faces in 8-game suspensions. I'm still blown. If this was really, if he played a 10-game season, if it was football and it was a high school football game, he would have suspended for 1 game because that's a 10th of the season.
Yes.
Woo-hoo-hoo. Yes, I want. If we could get the Hard Knocks crew to just camp in Chicago.
We just want to listen, that's all.
I just want to hear. I want to know what occurs. Because the meetings, when they're Bobby's been playing well for us. Yeah, he's rotated well into the starting lineup. Lost those 8 games, but since then he's been... What'd you say? Nikola will be cleared for practice next week. Oh, we never traded him, did we? Shit. What do you think we should... that's going to happen. I
mean, they can't trade him.
They have to.
They have to, but they
can't.
can't.
Bring him in. You cannot let him back inside the facility.
They can't get rid of him.
Why not?
Well, I mean, you're going to suck anyways.
But, why suck with the threat of... Okay. You know what? However this one turns out, I'm here for it.
Yes.
1,000% here for it. I've reached out to UD Pod correspondents across the globe. We've scoured the nation and found out that we can confirm here today for you, baseball is still occurring. That's your baseball coverage. Urban Meyer, actually no, shout out to the Astros, city of my birth. I got a Stros hat around here somewhere. I'll wear it next week.
So currently, we are visiting Jonathan's grandparents, who are avid Yankee fans.
Oh,
yeah.
You just made baseball a topic.
Yeah, kind of. So I asked him, like, how's it going? And my dad was like, I mean, we're not even supposed to be in the playoffs. Like this, we're ahead of schedule. I mean,
playing with house money.
That's the approach they're taking. I'm like, well, all right then. I honestly didn't realize the playoffs had started until Yankees started winning, and I'm like, oh wait, yeah, that's my Mets team. Yeah, good for them. I thought they said they were going to be trash this year, but they're in the playoffs. Good for them. That's how I do baseball. That's how I do playoffs.
It's all about managing expectations. I don't know if everyone saw this week on the internet because so much happened in sports. But Urban Meyer's wife was on Twitter, said something to the effect of Colin Kaepernick can get a job. Good, he made his choices. And Twitter let her have it. Justin, have you noticed how quiet these college coaches have been about the matter? Because you know what? They got to recruit these kids.
And that's the thing. Urban Meyer said, you're messing up the money right now. What are you doing?
Do you want me to have a job? What are you doing?
Because the kids may not care about that. The parents, too.
She had no idea what she'd done. She had no clue.
None whatsoever. None whatsoever.
And it went so predictably. Kaepernick's mom clapped back at her.
Yes. I mean, Kaepernick's mom's kind of been fed up this last year.
It's at a certain, like at the beginning, people are like, we don't know how Kaepernick's parents feel about it. At a certain point, you're gonna stop talking about her baby. Like,
and that's what it boils down to.
I don't give a damn where she stands. At a certain point, y'all gonna stop talking about her baby. Like, I was like, oh, we don't know where his mother stands. I'm like, we're gonna know where she stands soon enough. Y'all keep fucking with him.
No, her mother is. You know what the stance is? Say something about my baby again. Just say. Just say something about my baby again.
You can be like, Colin's defending serial killers. I don't give a fuck. You gonna stop talking about my son?
We handling that in house. That's a family matter. Stay out of grown folks' business. Stay out of grown folks' business.
When Colin's walking out, I was like, Mrs. Meyer, you may want to. I believe the phrase is walk that the fuck back immediately. Because you're not going to win this. You're not, and she didn't. And she backed down, and good for her. And I hope this forces more college, and it won't. Nothing ever makes college coaches do anything. But I wish they had to talk about it. Because to Harbaugh's credit, he's been vocal. He's been loud. He said how much he backs Colin and how much he respects Colin for his stance. Other coaches, a little quieter. You'd think this would make Urban Meyer say something, but with the Big Ten falling apart around him, he may win as the king of the trash heap, so he's kind of trying to stay quiet, I think. We'll talk about that in a second. Other college football news that's not exactly college football news. Justin Houston Nutt got his apology, man. The judge came down and ruled that in the lawsuit he had placed against Ole Miss that, yes, indeed, Ole Miss would have to give a certain amount of money to a Mississippi area kind of boys and girls club type deal, and also issue a formal apology for wrongfully associating Houston Nutt with the recruiting improprieties and sanctions that Ole Miss had fallen under. I feel like this is the medal ceremony after they blew up this Death Star. Like, the win was blowing up the Death Star, and his win was costing Hugh Freeze his job. So
we started the show talking about Discovery and why nobody wants to go to Discovery. The Hugh Freeze story is a case study of why Discovery is a horrible thing, and you just pay. You pay. Hey,
guess what? Not even pay. Just fucking say you're sorry. Like, the fact that this all could have been kiboshed by Ole Miss saying, you know, we shouldn't have lied about you, Houston. Instead, they doubled down with press releases. Like, who gonna check me? Like, Ole Miss said, who gonna check me? And Houston Nutt said, I shall. I shall.
Oh, there's There's a great unworthy Thor quote that could have gone right there, but I don't know. I'm going because you guys are doing the Thor character corners. Have you read Aram's unworthy Thor run?
Nigga, come on.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. I'll answer the yes. Answer the question, witness. Yes, I have read the run.
They're all around the Ultimate Mjolnir, and Thor basically says, I mean, if y'all want it, y'all gonna have to. I will. I accept the challenge.
And like Houston Nutt, like, say what you will about Houston Nutt, he stood by it. He's like, I didn't do this. Like, apologize. Don't lie on me. And this kid is why you try to tell the truth at all times, because, wow, you might just crater your entire school's football team for the next foreseeable future.
I mean, the other lesson here is don't solicit prostitutes on university property.
That's not the lesson. The lesson is don't piss off Houston Nutt. And if a man comes to you saying, all I want is an apology, recognize that he could take so much more from you. If someone says to you, hey man, all I really wanted was just the apology, just fucking apologize. And this applies to all things in life, by the way, whether it's a coach at an institution or, I don't know, a wronged samurai. I don't know. I read a lot of comic books. I play a lot of video games. If someone from your past comes to you and says, all I want you to do is apologize, I'll move on. Apologize to that motherfucker. You're going to save yourself about 12 hours of that motherfucker coming after you to kill you and get his apology. Just say you're sorry. Don't even mean it. Just say it. Just say it till they'll go away. They'll leave you the fuck alone if you give them the apology.
I mean, I'm pretty sure
right? Am I wrong? Am I wrong here?
I'm pretty sure that's how a side quest in Mass Effect Andromeda ends. Like, if you apologize, like, oh, well, I was prepared for violence, but okay.
Like, this is most of Red Dead Redemption. Just
apologize. Like, all of that could have been avoided if you just apologized.
Just apologize. Just say you're sorry. Hey, dog, I was wrong. You're good. I apologize. Would you like some tea? Break bread. There are other ways to do this. Sticking by your guns isn't always the best way to live. But it's the only way to live. It's the only way to live if you're a Columbia Lion and you're 6-0.
Oh. Well, congratulations.
Justin.
I'm not going to take this away from you. No, I'm not going to take this away from you.
No one can take anything. What are we talking about? Take away from me. Columbia went to New Haven. They took the buses up to New Haven to play Dartmouth, who was also 5-0, also rocking the league, coming through and making some noise. They're the first ones who did the hitless practices. They got all their pads on motors now, so to cut down on head trauma during practice. They won 2 league titles after they did it too. And Columbia beat them. They didn't just beat them. Columbia was up 22-17 with 17 seconds to play. Dartmouth driving inside the 10, last play of the game. They call a pass play. They drop back. They're ready to throw, try to score against Columbia. Sack. No timeouts left. Ball game. Justin.
No, I mean, I have, as much as I want to rain on this parade, I can't. My team just lost to Hampton, and we lost our homecoming.
Oh, yeah, and that's the other thing that happened yesterday. I went to Clark Homecoming, and as I mentioned on this podcast, I love football. My first football love will always be the Clark Atlanta University Panthers. Every homecoming, we went with my parents, man. Every homecoming. Until I graduated, until I left for college. And I went less frequently after college. So I had other things going on. But I got to go yesterday. I got to hang out, and I got to watch the game. And I got to watch the mighty Panthers beat the Albany State whatever they are. I don't know if they are just fucking around. But they got to pick up a win on homecoming for the first time in years. It's been a good day in college football for me, man. You seem like you're going through it.
I mean, the state of Georgia is doing far better than the state of Florida. It is what it is. I'm to the point now where the only successful Florida program is the one that imported a Georgia man. So
we'll talk about Coach Rick's miracle working down in South Beach in a minute. But let's talk about the SEC. Georgia was off this week. So I had a little bit level of stress removed. And Florida was off this week, too, getting ready for the big occurrence in Jacksonville this weekend. We talked about it before the show. I don't want to get into it again, but let's just say it this way. I'm nervous, and I don't want to hear you I don't want to hear you minimize my concerns. Now, in the SEC, Kentucky, who was 2-1 in the SEC, 5-1 overall, kind of making some noise. Yeah, Mississippi State did that to them, 45-7. Kentucky's still Kentucky.
So you're still Kentucky.
There was dreams, there were hopes though. There was hope.
Their hope should have been eliminated when they lost to Florida, because that is the
look what it took for Florida to beat them. Literally not covering the same receiver twice.
Florida did not beat them. For the fourth year in a row, Kentucky shot itself in the foot. We have not beat Kentucky for 4 years in a row. They've beat themselves each year. They invent new ways to lose. That's when you should have realized we're still Kentucky. Because Florida has handed them this game. We've been trying to lose to them. We've been trying.
I can't argue with any of that. LSU put it on Ole Miss, who 40-24. I'm not going to let you trick me into thinking LSU's good again. I'm sorry. They're just not. And what I pray is that with news of Coach Orgeron's massive buyout, that the LSU faithful are stuck with Coach O for a while, because this is not Coach O's team. He's taking over the remnants of Les Miles' team, and if you want to use that as the excuse for some of the lost Troy, that's fine. I'll say this. Who knows what this team looks like in Coach O's image? That should make everyone nervous, that we just don't know what it could look like. The uncertainty should make you nervous, LSU faithful. Mizzou beat up Idaho 68-21. Look, Mizzou can score, but I'm not sure they could stop anyone. I'm pretty sure Idaho just ran out of ways to score points. Auburn beat Arkansas 42-20. The questions about that coach at Arkansas continues as Bert's buyout becomes a trending topic, at least in Arkansas homes that have internet. And last but not least in the SEC, Alabama beat Tennessee 45-7. And so the question becomes, are you keeping Butch Jones on so that you don't ruin two coaches by having two coaches lose this way to Bama and then lose to Vandy? Because I think Butch is going to lose to Vandy.
Spencer Hall makes a great point. They're not going to fire Butch Jones until they're certain they have his replacement. Until they're certain there's a coach on the market that they know they can get.
See, and I wrote this back to Spencer. I said, that goes against everything they've done in the past.
Also, actual and factual.
that is a historically baseless claim.
That's how they got stuck with Butch Jones in the first place.
That's literally how he got here. What are you talking about?
You would think they would have learned this lesson. Oh, God, Derek Dooley used to be their coach.
Nigga, look, see? I'm telling you, it gets real when you start doing that backtrack shit. They don't consider these type of things. If that's what they're doing, we have no historical basis to think so.
Maybe this is the time they've learned. Nope.
Oh,
the minute
now we give them credit. Now
the minute you start saying, well, maybe they've learned, no. He's going to be fired after they lose to Vandy.
Yeah. Because he has to be fired if they lose to Vandy.
Honestly, so after that Florida-Tennessee game, both head coaches should have been fired. They should not have been allowed.
I'm so excited you're never going to fire that coach. You guys are going to have him be your coach for the next 4 years.
We're fucking stuck with.
So here's what happens. So you're going to fire the OC this year. Next year, you're going to do some recruiting bounce back, and you'll say, his first year in a new system. And by year 2.5 of the new OC, that's when everyone gets fired. That's the Florida circle of life.
If we had just stuck with Muschamp for one extra year, we could have fired him.
That was a good idea. Oh, because then you would have had,
Charlie Strong. No, then we could have had Charlie Strong, and then everything would have.
Or Charlie Strong, which both of those men, I wanted to have no piece of Florida. I was like, when Tom Herman's deal, I was like, you get Tom Herman the fuck away from Florida. Don't you come put him anywhere near the Gators. You leave us alone. Yeah, Texas, beautiful landing spot. Charlie Strong, you're going to Florida? Not that Florida? Perfect. Excellent. Wonderful. God bless. Flourish. Grow. Be the best man you can be. Just not at that Florida. Let's go national. Memphis was held scoreless in the first half against Houston, losing 17-0. And the joke was, I bet Memphis scores 40 in the second half. And that joke was stupid because they scored 42 and won 42-38. Penn State blew out Michigan, and are we tired of pretending Michigan's good because they blew out a bad Florida team? Because I am. TCU walked all over Kansas because Kansas is Kansas. Wisconsin, who's the only team in the nation who will convincingly tell you we're just going to run the ball to take the clock down, and actually believe them. They beat Maryland 38-13. Miami beat Syracuse 27-19. Syracuse, it was nice while it lasted. But Coach Rick does not lose to teams named Syracuse or any of your teams. I'm a little scared. He's supposed to be good in 2 years when Easton transfers down there. Not now. This is getting ugly. I don't like it. Oklahoma in a shootout with Kansas State. Is the Oklahoma defense this bad, or do I just undervalue Pac-12 offense?
Yes.
Probably both are true. Speaking of Pac-12 offense, rock fight in Texas. Oklahoma State beats Texas in overtime 13-10. It's as ugly as it sounded. I watched as little as possible that game. Notre Dame blew out USC 49-14, which makes Georgia's win in South Bend look even better. We could be looking at a top 3 team at the end of the week, and that makes you physically ill because the higher Georgia flies, the further it is for us to fall. I don't know if Chad listens to this show sometimes, but Chad, come get your peoples. They lost 59-7 to Virginia Tech. And I'm not saying UNC should be good at football, but I need people to stop pretending that they're not bad. Washington State bounced back from their embarrassment last week, 28-0 over Colorado. USF beat Tulane, 34-28. Michigan State. So Indiana was leading a ranked Big Ten opponent in the fourth quarter of a football game this year. It's important everyone recognize that. They were up 9-3. Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I am your host, D-Palm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. You can follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. If you're going to talk about the show, do us a huge favor. Use the hashtag UDPod so we can find you and thank you for the shout-outs. You can also send suggestions, story ideas that way as well. I know things that I try to cover as much as I can on the pod, but there's stories I don't see, stories that I don't really know about, but I like it when the listeners bring it to my attention. I try to work it into the show. We're brought to you, of course, by the good folks at NTR Network. It's the one place where you can get everything you need in life, including comic book talk, video games, movies, politics, relationship advice. I was on our premium show, Hello Cupid, ahead of my pending nuptials. We're recording this 13 days out of my wedding. And I'm not just talking fast because I'm nervous, I promise. Make sure you're leaving 5-star reviews. If you leave a 5-star review in the iTunes, we will read it on the air. Anything you write, I will read, despite how mean it's been against the Falcons. And after tonight's game, could be much meaner. Anyway, I'll read those reviews in the air. Subscribe in the iTunes store. That way you can get all the extra things we drop. I know we dropped those quick snaps. Haven't had one last week just because you know what, your boy gets tired sometimes. But it's the best place you can catch all the extra things that we're going to be dropping on the feed. Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I am your host, D-Palm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. You can follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. If you're going to talk about the show, do us a huge favor. Use the hashtag UDPod so we can find you and thank you for the shout-outs. You can also send suggestions, story ideas that way as well. I know things that I try to cover as much as I can on the pod, but there's stories I don't see, stories that I don't really know about, but I like it when the listeners bring it to my attention. I try to work it into the show. We're brought to you, of course, by the good folks at NTR Network. It's the one place where you can get everything you need in life, including comic book talk, video games, movies, politics, relationship advice. I was on our premium show, Hello Cupid, ahead of my pending nuptials. We're recording this 13 days out of my wedding. And I'm not just talking fast because I'm nervous, I promise. Make sure you're leaving 5-star reviews. If you leave a 5-star review in the iTunes, we will read it on the air. Anything you write, I will read, despite how mean it's been against the Falcons. And after tonight's game, could be much meaner. Anyway, I'll read those reviews in the air. Subscribe in the iTunes store. That way you can get all the extra things we drop. I know we dropped those quick snaps. Haven't had one last week just because you know what, your boy gets tired sometimes. But it's the best place you can catch all the extra things that we're going to be dropping on the feed. Especially like if you like our Super Tuesday content, make sure to subscribe to that feed as well. We drop individual